All right, the next stop in our short franchise review is Predator 2. Now, the plot for Predator 2 is pretty much the plot from the first one, except a different setting, the concrete jungle instead of the actual jungle. And from what I understand, this movie got a lot of bad reviews, poor critical reception when it came out, and has since garnered kind of a following of the "it's not so bad" variety. And I'm kind of on the fence between good and bad. It's a mixed bag for me, so let me just explain myself. First, the good. And firstly, I really like the setting of the movie. I like that they went from the jungle to the concrete jungle. I like seeing the Predator operate in a different environment. And I like seeing the people in that environment react to that Predator. They could have done a carbon copy and paste of the first movie, but they didn't. They changed it up enough to where it felt fresh, but the plot itself was still familiar to an audience that already loves it. And building a little bit on that new elements thrown into the familiar framework, I really like the characters in the movie, particularly Danny Glover. In the first movie, your protagonists were these commandos, these muscle-bound, gun-toting badasses, but basically big giant slabs of meat to fight the Predator. More brawn than anything. They were badasses in their own right, but in this movie, you get Danny Glover, who's not ripped. He's a well-built guy, but that's not his identifying trait. His identifying trait is his attitude. He's a badass, and he knows it, and he tells people constantly. He's one of those cops that disregards the rules, talks crap to everyone. He's his own man, and he talks trash with his teammates. He talks trash with the Predator, and he's just a lot of fun. He's a really good personality to watch go up against the Predator. And again, it's the same sort of plot, but Danny Glover is such a different type of character from Arnold's character that it feels fresh even though you've seen it. I also really love the expansion of the mythology of the Predator, of this alien race. You learn almost nothing about it in the first one, and in this one you learn a little bit, but they don't outright tell you. But you get to see the Predator's ship. You get to see that this Predator, anyway, wasn't alone. He had a bunch of his buddies there in the ship with him, including some elder Predator that has a gun from the 1700s. So they've been here for hundreds of years. They've been coming here and hunting. So that's kind of interesting expansion. Also, the expansion on the weaponry. Now, I don't know if this was just like, for fun, let's make some more weapons, or if it was like saying, in this environment, the Predator needs these kind of weapons, as opposed to in the jungle, it's more bare bones. But either way, the weapons are really cool. You get this net that pins people against the wall and tightens. You got the classic disc that you can throw at people, the spear, all sorts of now staples of the Predator's arsenal. And it's just really cool to see that kind of expansion. It makes them even more cunning and intimidating. It was a really good addition. I also really appreciated that the filmmakers knew what the audience wanted. They didn't toy around and tease the audience for 45 minutes like the first one did. The first one was well within its rights to do that because it was establishing a property. But you come into the sequel and you want to see the Predator. You know how cool it is. You want to see it, and you want to see it do things, and you want to get into the thick of it. And that's exactly what this sequel does. You see the Predator, or at least the cloaked version of the Predator, in the first 10 minutes of the movie. And then the pace really moves for the next 90, 100 minutes. See, it really moves, and you don't really have time to question anything. Although when you see it enough times like I have, you still do. Which kind of leads into some of the negatives I have. My issue with this film mostly revolves around the Predator itself, or how the filmmakers handled him. And the fact that they kind of created some inconsistencies and some confusing moments after watching the first one. Stuff like, they almost make him seem omnipotent, like he's a god or something. There are multiple moments in the movie where he is in one location in one scene cuts, there doesn't seem to be any passage of time, and it cuts to another scene happening across the city, and then he just pops up there. And maybe that's more. It feels like they left some scenes on the cutting room floor. Like maybe there was a connector scene that explained how he got there so fast, or maybe showed some passage of time. So that might not be on the Predator expanding his mythology or anything. It might be more on editing. It also made me a little bit confused about his whole cloaking ability. In the first movie, it seemed like it just made him camouflaged, and he was really cunning in that movie. And in this movie, it more seems like it also makes him invincible in addition to invisible. There are a couple moments where he just gets lit up. He takes half a clip into his chest and just doesn't slow him down. And then there's this scene in the subway car, which is just, it hurts my head to watch. It's one of those strobe flashing in the dark type scenes, and it goes on forever, and you can't tell what the hell's going on. But the Predator drops down in this train car, and he's right in the middle of the aisle, walking towards Bill Paxton's character. And they make a point of showing Bill Paxton looking at the Predator. He's cloaked, but he's looking right at him, and his eyes wide and his jaw drops. They make it clear he sees the Predator, and then he pops off 2 whole clips out of his pistol, presumably right at the Predator, and he just keeps walking right at him and murders him. Now, either the Predator has incredible armor on that is just absorbing shots at this scene, even though he gets lit up in the next scene, or Bill Paxton's character, despite having like a 2-foot range with which he knows the Predator's standing, and he's just missing. Either way, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it kind of annoys me when I watch it now. And there's this one little scene, it's not a big deal, but every time I watch it, I'm just like, that's so stupid. I know it is because it's just a cool looking shot, and it is a cool looking shot. But it's this quick little couple second clip of the Predator standing on a skyscraper of sorts, roaring into the sky, and then a lightning bolt hits him, and it like electrifies him for a second, and he just keeps roaring, and it looks really cool, but he's not a god, right? He's an alien. He's a creature, a hunter. But since when can he take a lightning bolt straight to his head? And it's like he's wearing Iron Man's armor and just gets like supercharged out of it. And it's just absurd. It looks cool. I know it's a cool shot. That's why I left it in. But I can't help but think how stupid it is, really. While for the most part I do like the similar premise in the new setting, I like this concrete jungle setting a lot, but sometimes the equivalent of the scenes from the first movie in this movie are decidedly less badass because of the setting, and it does take me out of the movie a couple moments. For example, the first one that comes to mind is the Predator healing up scene. In the first one, you see the Predator up in the tops of the tree canopies, and he's self-medicating, and he's healing up, and he roars up to the sky, and all the commandos look like they pissed their pants, and they're looking up at the trees like, oh my gosh, what was that? And it kind of gets you shook. The equivalent of that scene in this movie is the Predator standing at a sink in a flower wallpaper apartment bathroom, looking in the mirror, patching himself up, while an elderly lady with a broom is hitting on the door saying, get out of there, or something like that. And it's the same music's playing that's supposed to be like badass, intimidating, but the setting just kind of makes you roll your eyes a little bit. So yeah, that's Predator 2 for you. It's kind of a mixed bag for me. I'm definitely leaning way more towards I liked it. The negatives for me are more a combination and a summation of a bunch of little things that don't really impact my enjoyment too much. But yeah, overall I like it. I love Danny Glover as the lead. I love the new setting for the most part. And I love the expansion of the Predator, his new weapons, where he comes from, their history a little bit, just a little taste. They don't go into explaining the entire backstory of everything. I think that would ruin the creature itself, but just enough. So yeah, big fan. Not as much as the first one, but I'd give it like a 82%. Not too bad. So I'll be talking about Predators, the third one, here in a day or so. So stay tuned for that. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.